What's up, everybody? It's Brianna Nicole from Sincerely Brianna Nicole, and I am back with another Here I Am. I haven't done one of these in a while. Here I am, and it's not what it seems. And what I mean by that is, it's not what it seems. It's exactly what I said. That's exactly what I mean by it. You can take it how you want to take it. It can go, different ways or whatever. But this time I'm talking about my life. I had a conversation with somebody a few weeks back, and I was telling him, I was part of an anthology, telling him my healing story, and I was like, I thought you had a good life. And it didn't upset me when she said it. It just was like, yes, I come from a single parent household. Yes, I have, my parents are well off now. But a big part of, what I went through, growing up didn't have anything to do with money, didn't have anything to do with the fact that both my parents were in the house. It just was broken people raising, a child. And I'm not saying that my parents are broken, like they can't be prepared, or they had their own stuff they had to deal with. Like, as people, we go through stuff consistently. The Bible says our days are few and full of trouble. So if there's never going to be a time where there's nothing going on. That's how I take that scripture. There's always something going on, and that's not a problem. It's just how you deal with it. But my parents, they went through a lot individually, and then they got married, and then they started going through stuff together, and then what they went through or going through, whatever, it showed up in how they parented. And they did the best they could with what they had. I'm not mad at my parents. I'm not mad at nobody. But you can't look at where somebody lives or what kind of car they drive, and assume that they don't go through anything, or that they don't have real life stuff happening. The first person I think of every time I say that is Jennifer Hudson. Jennifer Hudson has a TV show. She got she didn't win American Idol, but now she is an EGOT holder, and she got all this stuff going on. But that don't change the fact that her whole family was killed, and that she got to deal with that. Like, you know what I'm saying? She got to live with that every single day. She can't pick up the phone and call her mama. She can't pick up the phone and call her sister. She got to live with that every single day, and that doesn't change just because she has money. You know what I mean? Like, life does not stop happening just because you make a certain dollar amount. Is money the root of all evil? Well, no, it's not. It's not. It's actually a solution to a lot of people's problems. However, the love of money is the root of all evil. And what that means is that when all you're looking for is the money, and you're doing things just to get the money, you'll start doing it out of desperation. That desperation is dangerous. And a lot of people who go after money find themselves in situations where they feel like mentally they cannot get out. Look at Robin Williams. Robin Williams has been making movies forever and still committed suicide. Money don't stop that. Money does not stop that. You know what I mean? Like, and I think people get that confused a lot. It does not stop anything. Like, it literally does not. I remember even when I was working at DCF. I worked at DCF for almost 2 years. And my pet peeve when I was working there is the term at-risk youth. Because what makes a youth at risk? It's because of where they live, how many parents are in the household, how many kids are there, the parents' education level. No, that does not. That has a factor in what may go on in their household. However, every child is at risk. Just because, like, and I watch a lot of TV, y'all. I do. I love, like, old shows. But I remember there was an episode of Boy Meets World. There was a girl whose father, I forgot her name. Claire? Was that her name? Her father owned the bank, but was beating the brakes off his daughter every chance he got. On paper, she's not considered at risk because of her socioeconomic status. But that don't change nothing. It's not what just because my father owns the bank don't mean that stuff don't happen at our house. You know what I mean? Like, And sometimes we have to learn to give people grace because we just don't know what we don't know. We have no idea what we don't know about somebody. Like, even talking to people, you just don't, like, you can walk back past somebody every single day and have no idea what they're dealing with when they go home. Or no idea what has to happen in their life within the next time period or whatever. And while it just excuse me, y'all. I'm driving on my way to Charlotte. We just don't, like, you have to giving people grace does not necessarily mean that you have to know what's going on. It just means that when things, it doesn't mean just ignore them, but you have to give them some more. You don't know. You really don't know. Like, I've worked with people whose whole lives have fallen apart and I had no idea. That's why you're supposed to be kind to everybody. Because you don't know what people are dealing with. People start snapping because it'd be the one small thing that's like the last straw for them, and you have no. Speaking of, move a straw. That is the perfect example. A misunderstanding, and I know a lot of people don't like Tyler Perry and the storylines that he gives, but straw is an example. The cop, Tiana Taylor character, nobody would have known that her mama was a Janiyah. Nobody would have known that. But they assume because she's a cop, she got it all together. She looks nice, she got her hair done, blah, blah, blah. She got it all together, and that's not the case. We just, because we look when we're on the outside, don't mean that we ain't tough up on the inside. And I know for a fact that there's a lot of people out there faking it. I was one of them. I remember, and I've never been somebody. I've always been very protective of my space, but when I confided in people, I really, really, really confided in people. Really? I remember people would see me at church, and I would just be crying, like, and nobody would know why. I was literally about to lose it every single week. Like, God, if this don't change now, I'm going to lose my mind. He would keep me. But I still would feel like that. But he would keep me, right? And so people wouldn't understand. It was like, she goes to work, she goes to school, she drives a decent car, she looks nice all the time. I was breaking down inside every single day. Every day I had to clock in at that job that I hated. Every day that I wasn't able to do what I needed to do financially. Every single day that I felt like I was not acknowledged by someone. It'd be the smallest things that will send you over the edge, and people have no idea. So you have to be kind. You have to. You have to be kind. As you just don't know. Like, we all have bad days when we survive 100% of them. But that does not mean that we are our strongest on our bad days. It don't mean that. I could be having a bad day, everything's nothing's going wrong, and it'd be one thing. I remember one day at work, I started snapping on everybody. I don't know who y'all, but it pissed me off. But it was, I had a long morning. And as a mom, yes, most of my mornings are very long. I gotta get my son fed, dressed, get ready for school, get him to school. And if you have children, you know how tough that can be sometimes. Like, my son is like, no, mommy, I'm not going to school today. You're 3, you're going to school today. Like, I don't care what you're talking about. Having to argue with the child and then trying to muster up enough strength to get to this job that I don't particularly care for and perform with excellence. Even if I don't like it, still do it with excellence. right, to do that. And then I get so while it seems very small, this was a big issue for me. Like it turned into a huge issue. My supervisor forgot to call a teacher for a class, so the whole class showed up and there was no teacher. She forgot to remind the teacher, and the teacher never showed up. And I started snapping because I was like, I'm tired of y'all making these messes for me to clean them up. I'm not your maid. I'm not that. I'm not a nanny. I'm not none of that. Because they made a simple mistake. And that, like, you can't just start snapping just because you have to have a little bit more self-control also. But you just, even if and you have to, honestly, the part that like calm me down, like they don't know what's going on. They have no idea what's going on when you leave here. So you can't take that out on them. But yeah, I don't know. I think about that all the time. People think that, like, people want to have that struggle story. I didn't necessarily have to struggle financially like that. I mean, we didn't have a lot. My parents owned a house very young. You know what I'm saying? But I just don't want people to look at that and say, oh, she ain't go through nothing. No, I did. I went through a lot. I did. I definitely went through a lot. Not only that, I feel like we're in the age of people want to glorify starting from the bottom. Like, there's literally all songs starting from the bottom over here. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, back then they didn't want me, now I'm hot. They all on me. Like, the transition from nothing to something. People are, like, obsessed with the rags to riches story. And some people, it wasn't necessarily rags financially. Sometimes it was rags spiritually or emotionally.